What do you call this in your household? If you're British, you call it the Doofer, the magic stick, or the Oojamaflip. Every British household has got its own name for it, hasn't it? And we even changed that name according to how cross we are. Amazing. But the TV remote is actually a fantastic symbol of why British are the world leaders in using playful and silly language, and the reasons, socio-linguistic reasons behind it, are absolutely fascinating. So let's get into it in this AI free space. Sociolinguists say that the British use a filler word like or or even resort to thingamabob, oojamaflip. Well, how often? How often do you think that how many words do we use before we use a filler word? The socio-linguistic research says that amazingly, it's every 12 to 15 words that we use or something like thingamabob. Incredible. But why? Why do we do it as Brits? Is it just because we are playful in nature, or are we more forgetful than other nations? Actually, the reasons are fascinating. If you are German, every nation has their own filler word and placeholder name, it's called in linguistics. In German, it's Dingsbum. Ding means thing, and the bum is just a space filler. So it's thing. And they have this word, but they don't use it with the frequency that the British do. I lived in Germany for many years, and you hardly ever hear it, to be honest. The Spanish have chisme for thing or gadget. They don't use it very often. But us Brits are using Thingy-majig, Oojamaflip, Whatchamacallit, all the time. The TV remote, one of the most frequently used items in any household, has got its special name in every house. We're using it every single day. So a German who forgets a word might kind of be cross with themselves in German culture and stop and think until they remember the correct word for that context and that moment. But the British, we don't like dead air and silence. It's just not British, is it? We have to keep it flowing. So whilst a German might get cross at himself for not remembering a word, a British person will kind of play on that and highlight their forgetfulness and just use a placeholder like whatchamacallit instead of having that incredibly embarrassing silence that could be filled with, oh my God, what might somebody say? Somebody might say something controversial. Whatchamacallit that I just said is actually American. So if you're using that word too often in your everyday speech, and especially if you call the remote control whatchamacallit, stop immediately and resort to something much more British, like thingamabob. What do you call the remote control in your house? I remember as a kid, my dad used to call it the flicker. There's also the clicker, there's the thingamabob, but isn't the most common word for the TV remote control in a British household the doofer? The oojit, the magic stick, the magic wand? What do you call it? Let me know in the comments down below. And the fascinating thing is that even though we have a particular word in a particular house for the TV remote control, this can change according to our emotional state, how cross we are at that moment. So let's get into 4 levels of crossness. You will recognize this from a grumpy dad. Level 1, calm. Pass me the thingy, would you? We've all heard it. We all say it. Level 2, confused. I can't find the whatchamacallit. Absolute classic. Level 3, frustrated. Maybe your dad is watching the news, something comes on that makes him irate, and of course he has to change the channel, and he says, pass me the bloody doofer. I've definitely heard my dad say that. And finally, level 4, total defeat. The Oojamaflip is broken. Put the kettle on. Let's have some tea and a biscuit. That'll make everything all right in the world, won't it? If you're British. And what about if you are a different age? If you skew slightly younger, Gen Z are more likely to say the thing. Simply, the thing. Pass me the thing. Aren't they losing the playfulness and the sophistication and the Victorianness of pass me the Oojamaflip on the whatchamacallit? I mean, if you say that in a British household, every single person in the room knows exactly what you're talking about. It's what makes us British. It's as British as having a pack of ready salted crisps. So there's 3 things working together here culturally. The Brits love a rhythmic word. In rhythmic phonology, we like things such as higgledy-piggledy that just roll off the tongue. This da-dum-de-dum-de-bum. So Oojamaflip and whatchamacallit, they sound very pleasing to the British ear. And there's the social politeness. As we've said, we don't like dead air. And Brits have a humour, a self-deprecation that's very present in our culture. So we are quite likely to use a word such as whatchamacallit, because it sounds silly, it doesn't make us look too intense. And then the third part is the Heath Robinson effect. We are quite fond, as Brits, of a kind of cobbled together, slightly broken nature to things. We love the idea of the repair shop. That's a very popular series, isn't it? A British man in a shed in the garden fixing something. What could be more British than a man in a shed with a cup of tea and he's making something out of wood, or he's fixing something just for the sheer pleasure of it, and so he doesn't have to go and buy a new one. It's lovely to have these placeholder names and filler words in our language, and it shows us to be what we are: playful, self-deprecating, not taking ourselves too seriously. And there's nothing more British than the doofer or the Oojamaflip. So let me know in the comments down below what you call a TV remote in your house, and consider subscribing, because we've got a lot to get through. The quirks of British life, intriguing questions, and heartwarming stories. Join me next time. Grab your hat. Let's have a chat. Toodaloo.